One of the biggest things that I see in my comment sections on my TikTok and on this YouTube channel as regards to farming and homesteading is the question of when is it okay to start thinking about scaling? And the unfortunate reality is there are a myriad of different things and it's all different based off of your actual setup and what you're really trying to do. But ultimately, I've come up with a list of things that I think would be a good baseline for knowing when to scale your business and potentially how to scale your business as it pertains to farming. So the first thing, you got to have a winning formula, right? Like think about it this way. Initially, people start off their farmstead or their homestead as a hobby, right? You like chickens, you like being outdoors, you like cows, you like sheep, you like whatever animals that you have. And ultimately, they produce a product. And with them producing a product, it's very rare that a person can raise an animal that produces as much as farm animals tend to and are bred to, and not want to get rid of it in some way that you don't waste the life of that animal or the work of that animal. With that being said, you got to have a winning formula. It's got to be something that makes sense from not only a business standpoint, but for you yourself, right? So your business should be profitable. There shouldn't be a case where you're trying to still iron out your processes and you're still trying to figure out if you can make the red turn to black. And the reason I say that is if you don't have a handle on at least the general amount of inputs that you need per enterprise, then when you decide to go and try to start the business, you're going to be in the red and continue to be in the red. And that's one of the things that's killing farms today, right? A lot of the times the inputs will increase in cost and you don't have the market or you don't have the infrastructure or you don't have what's needed necessarily to make that a legitimate business, but you want to sell some of the products. You can't just jump out in there like that. You have to have the formula set up so that whenever you do take that leap and you're starting to make revenue, that you'll be able to say, hey, this is what it takes to stay on the profitable side. And if X, Y, and Z happen, this is how I could go in the negative. The second thing would be, again, your processes need to be standardized. You shouldn't be refiguring out a new way to feed animals or water animals every week. Now, granted, that doesn't mean you can't make improvements, but you need a baseline. Everything starts with the analytics and the understanding of what it takes to do the operation and run the enterprise that you're trying to run. That means you need to know it takes me 15 minutes to go and feed the sheep. It takes me 5 minutes to turn on the water. In the wintertime, it might take a little longer, so on and so forth. But you have an idea because you also have to account for your own labor, right? And the only way this becomes a legitimate business is if you're paying yourself and the profit that that business makes covers all of the costs, and that includes the labor that it takes, right? So understanding that and getting a baseline and also using that to build on to improve are crucial. Your expenses should be calculable. And when I say your expenses should be calculable, you should know what feed you're using, how much that feed is, whether you're buying it in bulk or buying it singular. You need to know how much it costs, have receipts, have all those things, because if your business is profitable and you have those standardized processes, you're going to pay taxes and they're going to want to see receipts and proof of these expenses that you're claiming in order to mitigate some of the tax burden that you have. But like I said, that means taxes. You got to have your receipts for those. You got to know your wages, any loan repayments, things like that. And then, of course, any of your vet, your AI, your feed, your infrastructure, any of those costs need to be accounted for. And you need to be able to point to and pinpoint what those costs were down to the cent, because the IRS does down to the cent. The second major point is you need to have a quality product, right? Having a business sounds like the epitome of the American dream, but a lot of businesses fail because they don't have the product base in order to sustain steady revenue from their customers, right? Like the whole point of regenerative agriculture, doing things on the farm on your own, is to be able to control the quality of what you're getting. Otherwise, we just tell you to go to the grocery store, pull something off the shelf. So with you taking the time to farm these animals, to raise these animals, love them, treat them well, make sure that they're having the best life they can so that they can produce a product, you want their product to be the best it can be. You're already fighting upstream. You're going against the grain. You don't want a bad review that is substantiated, or you don't want anyone to say, hey, this person created this product and they sold me this beef, but it was just fatty and gross and it tasted chemical or it had something wrong with it and they didn't take the time to inspect it. And you have to have metrics in order to understand where you fall in the totem pole, meaning you need to know if the beef you're producing is choice, if it's select, if it's prime. You need to know whether or not the pork you're producing is the best that it can be. If your eggs really are at the level that people are coming to expect, because customers are very, very scrutinizing. And we'll use Vital Farms for an example. Vital Farms built such a fantastic business model because they sang the song of regenerative agriculture and people believed them up to the point of not checking the nutrients. And now you see recently they've been exposed, so to speak, for having higher levels of some of the things that people are trying to avoid in the grocery store eggs than grocery store eggs. So again, you need to have a quality product. If somebody's going to pay regenerative ag culture prices, you've got to give them the quality that substantiates the cost. The next thing is you have to have an available market. One of the things I hate to see the most is a farm get started in the hopes of being able to sell a product, but they've done none of the due diligence to build that community. You have to ensure that customers know A, what you're selling, B, where they can find it, and see how much it costs, right? Like it has to be that simple and that plain. And then also you need to make something available so that people can see reviews and testimonials, whether that's you recording people talking after they've already purchased a few, or if you have a website having a review or a fact page or something like that where people are able to express whether the good, the bad, or the ugly of your product. And in addition, you need to make sure that you're willing to listen to what they're saying. Your customers are going to be everything. Customers are the lifeline. And a lot of the times businesses nowadays make us feel as customers that we need them, because in a lot of cases we do, because we don't have an alternative. But with regenerative agriculture, again, uphill battle. You are not the mainstream, meaning people will be really quick to jump off the boat if something is amiss. The other thing is you need to make sure you're incentivizing people to want to review, to want to share it, to want to talk and repost or whatever it is your apparatus is for marketing. You want to make sure that people feel like it's something in it for them. Not necessarily mean you have to cut them a deal, but at the same time, it should be a community aspect where they feel a part of the process, a part of the benefit, and you can figure that out in whatever way you want to do. If you want to give them 5% off based off of the reviews, or if you bring a friend, yours is half off, any of those things. I've seen a ton of different examples of it. But ultimately, you need to make sure that you incentivize people being able not only to review, but also spread the message. And you need to put your products out clearly, meaning one of the things that I see a lot of in social media for people who are running farms is they love posting videos of the animals living their lives and having a fantastic time. But this isn't old McDonald's farm. Like, I need not only to see that the animals are being treated well and that they have everything that they need, I need to know, hey, we are selling farm fresh milk, right? This is whatever type of enzyme you want to put out, whatever type of, hey, came from a Jersey cow or a Holstein, raised grass fed, grass finished, all this other kind of stuff. You need to make all of those details available plainly and clearly, because one of the hardest things as a customer is to decipher between what you're offering and what the grocery store is offering. And with the ambiguity that we get from the grocery stores, having that transparency in my local farmer means everything much more. Again, this is an uphill battle, meaning this stuff costs more. And unfortunately, until we get to a point where we're in a position to lower that cost, you're going to be heavily scrutinized based off the dollar amount that you're expecting somebody to pay. And the last thing is learn who your customer base is, right? Don't sit and think, hey, you know what I mean? Like, my market is XYZ person, and then not do the due diligence to pay attention to who actually buys your product. And that's one of the things that a lot of influencers miss. They go viral, they get a good push, and then after that, they completely ignore their constituents. And then their customer base, who they were trying to build with and who they were trying to grow the community from, is nowhere to be found because they did not focus on the people they had already won over. They focused on the fish that they missed. So the third thing, as far as expanding or growing your business, is don't be afraid to diversify, right? And one of the things that you'll see a lot of farmers talk about is, hey, I'm looking to grow my business, but I only have X amount of land. I can't add any more cows, or I can't add any more sheep. Then at that point, it might be time for you to experiment with another enterprise, meaning maybe you need to introduce meat birds, whether it's turkey, whether it's quail, whether it's, chickens, ducks. Find a market for it, right? But ultimately, you want to be able to offer more things than just what you have if you're not able to readily go and buy more land or more cows or sheep or whatever it is. Understand that each animal product that you produce takes a specific amount of infrastructure, takes a specific amount of land. And with it taking that, you want to make sure that you're not handicapping yourself by getting too little, but also by not maximizing the land that you already have. And that goes back into what I was saying in terms of the cost of regenerative agriculture. The more enterprises you can run on the same acreage, it reduces the burden of that cost on each enterprise. Meaning, if I only have cows, cows have to make up all the money, right? And cows aren't going to be producing every year in the sense of me taking something to slaughter every month. So a set of meat birds, which typically runs 8 to 10 weeks, maybe I can sit and take and run multiple cycles of those behind the cows, and in me doing so, I'm now not only basically subsidizing my cattle herd, but I'm also making sure that I'm being profitable on that same land. And the, let's say, $50,000 bill it was for however many acres of land is now split among multiple animals. And the more you can divide that out, the cheaper it is for you to operate. And then the last thing I'll say is don't get greedy, right? A lot of businesses fail because people overextend their reach and they aren't staying true to the community that they have, right? And we have multitudes of examples of businesses expanding too far and becoming the big bad corporation. A lot of farms also do the same thing where they expand so much and they have such a high demand on themselves that now they are cutting the corners that the grocery store producers are cutting. And they've basically turned themselves from being the new improved wave that's supposed to be on the right side of things to just another corporation or just another bad business that's only out for the money. Again, I'll use Vital Farms, not saying that this is how it went, but think about it in this example. If Vital Farms built its bones on saying that it was regenerative, we treat the chickens better, we give them access to pasture land, and they portrayed the image of chickens just out in the yard, just a multitude of chickens out in pasture, eating and scratching and living their chicken life. That's the image that they sold. That's what customers are expecting. And then to find out they've expanded so much that now there's not enough acreage to substantiate the needs of that many chickens. So they had to go more of the conventional agricultural way. That's what I mean, right? You've expanded beyond your capacity to fulfill based off of what you've portrayed to your customer base. Don't be like that. Find you a small niche. Again, it's better to have 100 customers pay $1,000 every time versus having 1,000 customers that pay $100 one time, right? These are just a few of what I would say are my big things to look for as it pertains to wanting to expand your business. I'm sure I missed some. By all means, let me know in the comments what I missed or if there is something that you would be looking for to kind of jump out at you and let you know, hey, this is the time to expand the business and this is the right way to expand the business. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Peace.